What is up, KTXT? It is Dyan here, and we are so excited to bring you this interview with Robby from the Goo Goo Dolls. Andrew and I sat down and chatted with him, and this was recorded on November 15th of 2022, ahead of their show in Lubbock on the 16th. And we just want to say a huge thank you to Robby for sitting down with us and taking the time to chat with us, and we hope you guys enjoy the interview.
Yeah,
All right, there we are. How you doing?
doing good. Thank you so much for doing this once again. So the first thing I want to ask, if y'all have been touring for, how has it been, like almost 35, maybe over that years now, is this going to be the first time y'all have played in Lubbock?
No, actually, we were trying to figure out where it was, and you know what? With a little bit of research, which probably should have done before I talked to you guys. Uh, we did play there once because I got my picture taken in front of the Buddy Holly statue,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, so I know that we played there. And as we were headed here to get on the bus last night, I said, "Oh, I think we probably played this place before." And then they showed me the pictures of the place we're playing. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's like grand.
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
it might be my favorite venue in this city. It blows me away every time I walk in there.
Yeah, unbelievable. I think we played an older theater, I think last time we
Okay.
were there, if I remember correctly. And like I said, this will help with this interview a lot, but I'll find out right after
Yes.
No,
we
yeah,
talk where we
that's
were. But yeah, but I remember being there for sure. So I'm glad. But I mean, it's been probably 20 years, since we've been
Man.
there. So
yeah.
yeah, so I'm excited.
I was wondering, this is, I think, like your second tour back after COVID. I'm sure there's so many, but what are the biggest differences that you've noticed, like before COVID touring versus after COVID touring?
Uh, I mean, personally, for me, every time I'm up there, I'm like, oh my God, thank God, because we had done that our whole life, and all of a sudden it was gone. And for 2 years, we barely got to play music, and it was really a strange time, for everyone. And then we started playing, we started doing shows, and it was so weird because you'd fly in a plane, and people would have like safety suits on, and tanks on their backs and masks and goggles, and you'd show up in a state, and there'd be 4,000 people with no masks on smashed into into a place to play. Not that either of them were right or wrong. It just, there was no consistency to anything, so everything felt really crazy. This summer when we started playing, because we had done probably a dozen shows probably prior to the tour starting.
Mhm.
Once the tour started, it kind of felt right. Like, it felt like everybody sort of was comfortable with something, like whatever their comfort level is, they found it. And yeah, and just to be out there, and like I said, being able to share that experience, man, it was, it's a wonderful thing. And I definitely look at it a little bit differently
Yeah,
today.
definitely. I feel like everyone's a little bit more grateful for live music after having it taken away from us for like
Mm.
2 years.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite bands is Blue October, and y'all had them opening for you this summer. So how did that come about, and what was touring with them like?
uh when we start to talk about summers, well, actually, that tour was booked 3 years before it actually went out.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, because it was booked with a band called Lifehouse.
okay.
And yeah, and we had toured with Lifehouse many times in the past, and so that tour was canceled. Due to the COVID thing. So they rescheduled it for the next summer, and by that point, Jason from Lifehouse kind of decided he didn't want to tour anymore. So we were looking for another band, and we started looking around. And Blue October we're familiar with. We knew a couple of their songs, but I was by no means incredibly familiar with them. But as they spent time with us on the road, and I got to see kind of like the interaction with their fans and stuff.
Mhm.
They do a great job. I think they do a special thing.
And then another question about shows is, do y'all prefer doing these big amphitheater summer shows, or do y'all prefer the more intimate theater shows like y'all are doing on this run?
Um, I think they're all great. I mean, they're all great. been a band for a long time, played in a lot of different scenarios. We played at 300 people sometimes. And it's great. We played a 300,000 people sometimes, and it's great. Yeah, I mean it.
Yeah.
It's almost more nerve wracking to play in front of less people because there's power in numbers, and you can sort of control the sway of a crowd, sort of in a way, like with your music. But when it's a small group of people, you're dealing with their faces, and
Yes.
yeah, and so you start to. Yeah, I mean, there's less options to divert yourself from things you might not want to see out there.
Obviously, I mean, you guys have been making music for such a long time. You guys are seasoned professionals at this point. And I'm just wondering, like, at this stage in your career, what would you say has changed the most in terms of like how you write an album and how you produce an album and how you just go about that creative process?
Well, no one but NASA and the federal government had computers when this band started. So, so I guess that's the biggest difference. There were just everything was done differently. I mean, it's a very sweeping generalization I just made right there, but I think it's true. I mean, there were no computers, so everything was different. There were no cell phones, so things, touring was different. How you got your music to people was different. How you listened to music was different. How you, shared ideas about music, that you wanted people to discover was different. There were different channels for all that stuff, um, I don't know if it's better or worse now. It's just way different. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that like you're not sure if it's better or worse, but is there anything that you sort of miss from that time period that you've tried to incorporate back into your music, like the analog sort of style of production? Or did you as a band kind of try to like embrace that new like technology with every release?
Well, you always want to see what's out there and use the newest stuff. I own a recording studio. John's a over the top audio guy. He loves, gold gear and stuff. So, there's a lot of that going on,
Right.
but I know, the goal is to make something that's gonna not sound silly in 8 years,
Yeah.
And find a timelessness about it. And I think that the things you mentioned, are part of that timelessness, not falling too heavy into, what's going on that minute.
Right.
And for us, trying to, stick to what this thing is and still reach out far enough to where you don't feel like, you're repeating yourself after 14, 13 records. How many? I can't remember. However many records we've made by this point, you want to feel like you're doing something that's a little new and a little different. And, and once again, that's, as far as John goes, that's unbelievably important to him too.
With John self-producing the album for the band, does that fall into the new and different category, or what was that like? It was the first time he's done that all himself, correct?
Well, we used to produce the records, like I think right up until maybe even including Dizzy Up the Girl, we were kind of co-producing records.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a boy named Goo was definitely done that way. But it was mostly because no one really cared up to that point. So we cared enough, to be there the whole time. And, as the band sort of got more popular and more people got involved, the process started to change a little bit. And we had a habit of burning out producers. So we started to use more than one producer for a record, and then it got to be 4 producers for a record. And so the process was much different, with COVID, we couldn't be around all those people. We couldn't be flying to all these places. So we just rented a studio out in the middle of the woods in Woodstock, New York. It was in an old church that was built in the 1800s, converted into a studio, and slept in the rectory at the bottom of the hill, which was creepy as all get go. and Yeah, and yeah, so and it was just us there, a band, sitting, getting up every morning and trying to figure out what we're gonna do that day, to be productive. And so I mean, that process was so strikingly different from what we had been doing for 15 years prior that I think this record's definitely got, a little bit different of a vibe just from that. I mean, songs aside, I think just from that, like, I think, that process was, um, send us down a road, which I don't even know if we'll ever go down again, but I mean, it was really an exciting time.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I feel like with COVID, there's been this kind of return to form of so many artists just being introspective, producing their own projects, and it's all very like intimate, and it's just cool because the craftsmanship that comes out of it, you can tell comes from the artist directly, which I think is really awesome. But I was going to ask if and when you guys ever release new music, if you would consider like self-producing again because of like that experience.
I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask him, John. I mean, I we have probably another 4 or 5 songs that we had recorded that we didn't release yet.
Mhm.
So we're well on our way to doing it, I guess, at this point. But we'll see. I'm not really sure. We had, John, when we got to the point of singing, uh, he was having a hard time doing it on his own. He sort of needed like some perspective. So we did bring in some of our friends towards the end of the record. A guy named Greg Wattenberg that worked on a lot of our past records. He came in and helped John sing a little bit. So, um, there is always that possibility, to mash a record up and, try to figure out a way to make another one under the circumstances we're in, which is exactly what we did last time.
We have our technical director, Zach. He has a question he wanted to ask because he's a huge hip hop guy.
Hi, Robby.
Hey, dude.
So on the new West Side Gun album,
Oh, yeah.
you're on that with
Yeah.
the entire Griselda crew. I was just curious kind of how that happened and how you and West Side Gun linked up.
They're in my studio as we speak, actually. Yeah, they're from Buffalo, man. We're all family there. Our studio, John and I opened a place in Buffalo many years ago. And yeah, we've been open now. It's called the GCR Audio, and it's been open for about probably 15 years now, something like that. But we do an awful lot of recording down there, and Benny and Conway and West Side Gun come and bring all their projects there. There's a couple studios in town they use, but yeah, they're all in there right now. So yeah, that track's pretty crazy, man.
I was looking at the track list and it was Robby from the Goo Goo Dolls, and I was like,
yeah. Yeah. Our circles cross a lot. So yeah, it's amazing. Hopefully we'll do something again soon. But I'm honored to be part of that family, man. They're a trip.
I wanted to ask about that too, because I feel like as like streaming gets so prominent and the internet and like sharing music and everything, you just start seeing more and more wild collabs between artists that you never would have thought would have collaborated with each other at all. And I was just wondering, obviously, like you have this West Side Gun feature under your belt now, but is there any other like wacky artists that you guys would like collab with, or somebody like
Oh my God.
cool?
Over the years, we've collaborated with all sorts of people. Elmo, we collaborated with. We collaborated with the Ice Capades. Oh my goodness, yeah, we've done a lot of stuff, man. Over the years, I did a thing with I played in a little band with the Buffalo Sabres once. That was fun. Yeah, I don't know. Like there's and John's done an awful lot of stuff lately, actually, too. John just did a thing with Demi Lovato. He just did a show with her, and yeah, and he has a tendency to kind of fall into that world sometimes a little bit. Yeah, this is a pretty insular situation we have here. We travel all the time. So it's a lot of what you're seeing right now. Like head off to do the show, get in the bus and go to the next place. It's not like, we're palling around with, famous folks and stuff all the time, It's like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of that kind of thing in this situation, but you are correct. I think the ability, and especially with digital recording and file sharing and stuff like that, there's such opportunities, to just collaborate, even if you're not in the same room together. You're able to share creative ideas together. I think it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll keep an eye out for the next West Side Gun project. We'll see if you
I don't
get any more features on there.
Iris in August, I believe, just hit 1 billion streams on Spotify. Is that what is that like or how does that feel? It's just such a number that I don't really know how to comprehend it, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that song's always been, a monolith, in our lives, it's sometimes it's the most incredible thing in the world, sometimes it kind of gets in the way a little bit. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, I think it's, the greatest gift, that we could ever be given. We can go anywhere, literally anywhere, and play that song, and people will go, "Hey, I know that," regardless of the language they speak or whatever, like that's a pretty amazing thing. But as far as numbers go and streaming and stuff goes, I don't know, it's I don't know, man, it's like a new world, I mean, it's outrageous, I mean, that number is outrageous, it's even tough to imagine that number, but as far as streaming and stuff goes, I don't know. It's just such a crazy thing. But I will tell you, man, I have learned, like, I used to sit around in my buddy's record store all the time when I was a kid, and he would, like, get all these new records, and he was one of those guys that would, like, he had a record store, but he'd open all the records first and record them. Like, you could record them onto cassettes, right? And then put them back in the sleeves, and you put them in the racks, right? So he had this like huge collection, but he would sit there all day just listening to music, so like you could go there and just like sit and listen, and when I would go, he sort of knew me, so he would know what to listen to when I showed up, because he kind of know what I kind of dug, and like the more times I went there, like he would, his idea of what I liked was refined more and more. That's what's happening on my Spotify right now. That same relationship is happening. It really is. And it's funny because it's taken a while, but like, man, the stuff I am discovering right now, it's unbelievable, man. Like I'm into like a lot of deep funk stuff, like old music. And like, it's just amazing the things that I'm discovering from like 50 years ago that I had no idea even existed, like how did I miss all this stuff? But it's that relationship that you have. So, it's an artificial intelligence based relationship, but it's that same thing, where you're, discovering things and learning things. So I really do appreciate that. That being said, streaming has pretty much decimated the music industry. I wanted to make sure that I stressed that I am a firm believer in it, but I mean, everything it's a new ball game now. It's all changed. The record companies don't serve the same purposes anymore. Distribution channels don't serve the same purposes anymore. People love vinyl, but like, you're not going to have a building in Los Angeles based on the amount of vinyl that gets sold these days. So I mean, it's all changed. Luckily, I don't know if it's luckily, but a band like us, we're used to being out there always. We're playing constantly, so we're just doing what we've always done. But yeah, it is really changed things. But like I said, my musical knowledge is certainly growing from it.
Definitely. I wanted to ask, kind of piggybacking off that, what are some records that you guys have had like in rotation on this tour so far that you've been listening to, kind of getting ready for shows or on the road or anything like that?
Let's see. Well, like I said, we listen to a lot of kind of deep funk. You know what we've been listening to a lot lately? You know who Gang of Four is?
Yes.
Yeah, for some reason we've been listening to Gang of Four a lot lately.
Nice.
Like,
Nice.
yeah. I know it's kind of older, but like, you know, that's what we've been listening to a lot of that backstage. I love that angular music. I work with this Japanese band called the Police, called
Okay.
like Police, but with an M, and they have that same sort of angular style. I love that, man. It's awesome.
Here at KTXT, we interview a lot of like local artists, very small indie, bands. But I've never asked this question to like a big staple band like you guys. But I'm just curious to know, like, if you, and this is just me because I'm a soundtrack person. I love movie soundtracks. If you could like redo the soundtrack to one movie, what movie would you associate your music with that you would want to like redo the soundtrack for?
Wow, that's interesting. Wow. Holy cow, that is like a
I know, it's like really out of left field.
an
I think it's
enormous
a fun question.
an enormous question. I mean, I guess, you would find something that's, in the fiber of humans. Like, what would it be like? But it's like funny because, like, there's things that you'd love to be associated with, but maybe you wouldn't be the right person to fall into that, like to be involved in like a Spielberg project or something. But like, would we do justice to something like that? Probably, like, probably not. You know what I mean? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But it all kind of depends. John did a thing with Disney once.
For Treasure
Without the
Planet,
band,
right?
It wasn't with the band. He just did it by himself with the folks that were there. So I guess you can plug yourself into anything, if you need to, I guess, But I mean, for us, most of the time, most of the things that we've done, it's been, songs that we've had kind of already, that have been applied, to movies. Of course, Iris wasn't that way, but all right. The Big Lebowski.
Okay,
Heck
that's a great
yes.
one. That's awesome. I could totally see that. I could totally see that. Thank you. I love asking that question. I think it's just fun.
So when I told my parents that I was going to do this interview, my dad immediately told me I needed to ask about this. And unfortunately, it turned out to not be a real thing that happened, but I still wanted to ask you about it. So
Right.
there's a website. It's called The Hard Times. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a music satire website. And a few years ago, they published an article saying that the Jim Blossoms played a concert and played only your music. And that
I saw that, and nobody noticed.
I was about to ask if you had seen it, what you thought about it.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're a good band. That's fine.
We just had them here this weekend actually playing a pregame show, so they were fun to watch.
We opened an entire tour for them when we were kids, like probably in 95, 96 maybe. It was us in a band called Lush. Do you remember them? I don't know if you remember them or not, but they're kind of cool, like shoegazer kind of band, cool band. Okay. We did a couple girls in the band. It was really cool, but we did a whole thing with them, and then I didn't see them for years and years and years and years. And I don't know if they got back together or what happened, but they said I started seeing their name all the time again, and so we've done a few shows with them just recently and stuff. Yeah. They're good folks, but man, that's like, everything sounds like smoke on the water to my dad. Right. Like whatever.
That's so funny. I'm definitely gonna have to check out that band that you mentioned. You said they're called Washed.
Lush, I think.
Lush.
Oh, Lush.
Yeah, Lush.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check them out.
Lush.
Huge shoegaze fan. So.
Yeah. But Washed is a pretty great name for a band.
Yeah. It sounds like it would be a shoegaze band name for sure. So cool. Well, we're so excited to see your show.
Great.
Thank you so much once again
nice to meet you guys.
Yes. And
Absolutely.
thank you just
All
for
right.
a band of y'all size to do something with a college radio station like us means the world.
You know what? I'll tell you what, man. Like anybody you talk to these days it's awesome because it's just about getting the word out there, you know. And like, you know, we started on college radio and we still do an awful lot of it, you know, and we're just happy that, you know, people not of our generation are so excited to talk to us, you know, about stuff, you know, I mean, that's exciting to us too. So thank you. I appreciate it.